Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Seventh-day Church of Revelation.
Hello everyone, my name is Leakey Wekesa and I'm here to share my brief testimony with you, hoping that it's going to encourage some of you who are going to see it. So, I am a student in the university here in Kenya and also a believer in God. And I'm just going to backtrack a bit to begin the story of my life and build a little context so that all of you can get some history of my Christian experience. So, my story goes way back when I was born. I was born into a fairly Christian family which went to church and fellowshipped on Sunday, and it was an evangelical church, and that's how I began my Christian journey, being taught Christian principles by my parents and being taught to be a good person. And I thank my parents for that. Growing up was interesting, and we used to attend churches that were near the place where we lived. For example, we attended churches like AIC Church, African Inland Church. Then we attended a church like Deliverance Church. We went to a church called Redeemed Gospel Church. All these churches were in a place called Kisumu in Kenya, where I come from. So I went to my primary school, finished well, and then went to my high school in a place called Siaya in Kenya. So in high school, I continued with my Christian experience. In my first year of high school, wasn't really much into church, but in my second year of high school, I began to draw closer to God. We were having personal Bibles, which was a requirement for every student to buy. So I bought a Bible, and then I decided to begin studying this Bible every time in the evening, just before we go to bed in high school. So it kind of brought me closer to God. Now, heading into my second year, I joined the Christian Union. So the Christian Union is a group in high school where it encompasses every denomination that are not Seventh-day Adventists, but are just Christians, evangelicals in fact. So I joined this group and I was very active in that group, and I was almost getting to the leadership position as I was almost getting into my third year of study in high school. So that is when I went to a class. We used to change classes when we go to our second year of study, depending on the subjects we choose. So I chose some subjects that demanded I move to another class. So the class I moved in, and still being a Christian, I was given the role of leading the students in some prayers 10 minutes before we go to bed every night. So I was doing that for some time. I was very passionate about it. The students really loved it, and they admired the way I was presenting the scriptures almost every 10 minutes before we go to bed. It was a nice experience. Now in this class, there was a friend of mine whose name is Mika Ogoti. a friend from a place called Kisii right here in Kenya. So this friend was also happy with my presentation and charisma with the scriptures as I led them during those 10 minutes. So I also loved and I admired how he understood the scriptures, because he was someone who was respected by the rest of the students also, because he was a believer. So we got close and we got to share many things. One of the things we shared with Brother Mika, who was a Seventh-day Adventist, was something that was creating a difference between us, which was the Sabbath issue. So I asked him, what is the issue with the Sabbath? Because I fellowship on Sunday and you fellowship on Sabbath, which is Saturday. He was a very humble man, and he said, the Sabbath is Saturday. At that time, I was giving the excuses and the simple reasonings that anyone can choose any Sabbath, anyone can choose any day. All these claims, Brother Mika was showing me scriptures from the Bible, and they were answering every question I was having. So we continued to be friends even while discussing that matter. And they were slowly working some effect in me. And I remember at one point I asked him now, is there a difference? Is there a problem if I decide now to have my Sabbath on Saturday and I also go to church on Sunday? So I do both of them. I asked him that question, and when someone asks that question, he has come now to understand that truly indeed the Sabbath is the seventh day, not the first day. So he wants to hold on to the truth while holding on to the error. So something had happened in me over the brief period we were with him. Now, he told me about now the mark of the beast, which I had never learnt about. He mentioned that Sunday worship is going to become the mark of the beast, and it's going to be something that you are deciding to be against God when you take part in. So this really struck right into my heart, and it was now disqualifying my worship of Sunday. So I decided to just, this is the truth and I need to follow it. Mika invited me to the fellowship of Seventh-day Adventists. I went there once. I just loved the organization. It was a nice thing. Cutting the long story short, that is how I joined the Seventh-day Adventist group in high school. Then for the rest of the 1.5 or 2 years that I spent in high school, I was really learning a lot from those young men that were there. I was really challenged by how much they knew. They used to teach Bible prophecy, which I was very interested in, teaching subjects like music reform, teaching subjects like health reform. I was really amazed and wondered, where did these young men get such kind of information? And where was I when they were getting this kind of information? They did all that. I couldn't speak when I first joined because I thought I knew nothing. Though I was preaching a lot back in the Christian Union, I was very quiet when I joined the Seventh-day Adventist group. I learned a bit, and then moving forward, I finished my high school while being in the Seventh-day Adventist group and declaring that I will follow this truth because I've discovered it is the most important thing that I need to do in my life. And I actually remember my high school because of that. Getting out of high school, I decided to be a Sabbath keeper even while at home. So I'm the only Sabbath keeper in my house. The rest of my family are still Sunday keepers. I continued with that kind of life until after some time I joined the university here in Kenya, Egerton University, with one mission to go and find the Seventh-day Adventist group in campus, join it, and because I loved music, also join the choir. Now, I did exactly that, and I got in there loving to serve the Lord a lot, with a lot of zeal. And when I got there, due to that zeal, I was given the role of leading the first year students, the freshmen in campus, which was a rare role, and I thank God for that opportunity. And then after the first year of study, I then got a chance to be an elder in that campus. So due to that zeal of serving God and having an opportunity, I used to view the Adventist faith as something very rare that almost everyone needs to know about. So I got to serve in that position. This is now 2020. So in 2020, just before we went for COVID, I was really trying to study my Bible a lot because I felt like I am new in the Adventist faith. Many people know many things that I do not know. So I was really trying to catch up, studying thoroughly all the books, Ellen G. White books, and they were really amazing to me. So as I was studying, I came to a subject that was very interesting for me. It was a subject of the 144,000, which is found in Revelation 7 and Revelation 14. Now, the reason why I wanted to study Revelation 14 and 7 is that one of the small reasons is that in Revelation 14 it is said that the 144,000 sing a song that no one is able to sing in heaven. Because I loved music, I used to imagine that we are in heaven and some people are singing songs that I'm not able to sing. What kind of feeling will that be? I decided I must join that, see whether I can join that group, that nice group. So I decided to study this thing in-depthly, see whether I can join the number. So I began some studies with this. Now, just to hold that a bit, previously there was a friend of mine in campus who was older than myself. He was a fourth year when I was a first year. His name was Elijah Siwanei. So Elder Elijah Siwanei was a friend of mine. He called me to his room one day and he told me some things about the Trinity. Now I did not understand. I was just feeling that the elder is speaking some important things, but I did not ask a question. I just felt he was speaking some important stuff, but he just left me to go and do the study. So he brought in the subject, told me this thing is an error, but he didn't really go deep into it. At that time, I had also heard that this Trinity issue is causing a lot of havoc in the church. And I had also heard about these reformed groups, the people who are really strict reformers. I had watched some videos of theirs. They really give a lot of evidence at that time, what I thought. They give a lot of evidence for their claims, but one thing I found difficult was that they didn't give a way forward. Some people really expose a lot of errors that are happening within the Seventh-day Adventist system, but a way forward, they just leave you there. Now let's stay in the system. There's no way forward. We stay there with all the information. So it's just more burdens. You see the errors and you're just burdened with the things inside the system. So I really didn't focus a lot on the message from the reformed groups, but I heard what the elder was telling me about, and I had also loved to study for myself so that I can become a sincere and true Christian. Now back to where I was studying about the 144,000. We went for COVID holidays, COVID-19, where we weren't going to school, we weren't getting outside. So we had really a lot of time to study and do several things. I got deep into the study, and while I was searching for all these things online, I found one document speaking about the 144,000. It was called A Study on the 144,000 by Elder Uriah Smith. I studied it and I really loved it. It was very clear. It was harmonizing every scripture from Revelation 7 to Revelation 14. And I found it very consistent. And it really brought in some heavy points that I thought were very interesting to me. It spoke about the special resurrection, which I had never heard of, which I believe that many of the people in Seventh-day Adventism do not even know about, did not know about at the time, and still do not know about. It spoke about that the 144,000 is a definite, literal number, which many people did not know about and still do not know about. And considering, it also mentioned the fact that this number begins to be made from the year 1848, and that even our pioneers like J.N. Andrews, Joseph Bates, and Elder James White are part of this number. So all these facts really surprised me. So it's a literal number, and all these older men are also in this number. And then I went to check the statistics, the number of Seventh-day Adventists in the world at the time. I found that 25 million Seventh-day Adventists were living in the church. I really tried to compare the numbers, because 144,000, the message that makes them 144,000 is the third angel's message. Seventh-day Adventists claim to believe the third angel's message. So they are the ones who are supposed to form the 144,000. I found this number too small. That meant if 144,000 is taken away from 25 million, what will happen to the rest of the 24,800,000 almost? Then it dawned on me how serious salvation really is, and how seriously we are supposed to take our salvation. It means all these other Seventh-day Adventists are not taking their salvation seriously, because I read that from Spirit of Prophecy, the seal of God cannot be placed upon any impure man or woman. So it really needs a lot of purity and sincerity, and they have no guile in their mouths, some pure Christians. So it was something heavy in my heart during that COVID break, And I really began to wake up in early mornings to pray and ask God to help me be among the 144,000. Now, at that point, I hadn't met the quotation that says, from Ellen G. White, that says, strive with all the power that God has given you to be among the 144,000. I hadn't met it. Now, a few weeks later, I met the quote. The quotation even increased my desire to be among the 144,000. So I said, it's really a serious fact to be in that number. So I went on a bit, and I was trying now to find whether other friends of mine know about this, because I felt it was a very rare truth. I asked some people who I knew were studious in the prophecies. I remember I asked my friend Kosgei, I asked him whether he has ever heard about this 144,000 matter. And he sent me the same document of Elder Uriah Smith. So I knew he knew about it, and I was so glad. And he was the last person I asked. I had asked several people before, but they didn't give me satisfactory answers. And I even watched several videos of these Seventh-day Adventist televangelists like Doug Batchelor and Mark Finley. Their exposition of the matter was not satisfactory to me. It wasn't harmonizing with those scriptures. But I found someone who understood it a bit. Now, also online, I was asking some friends whether they have ever heard about this. A certain lady called Rani Spence, I believe from the United States of America, she mentioned something in one of the WhatsApp groups, and then I tried to ask about the sealing message and the special resurrection. She spoke about the sealing message. I tried to ask about the special resurrection, whether she has heard about it. She basically told me that special resurrection is just a matter that we only tell people who ask for it, who ask about it. We don't teach it very openly. And she also sent me a certain video to go and watch so that I understand it better. Okay, so I got the video from Rani Spence, and then I went to watch it. I didn't watch it immediately. Just before I watched it, Rani Spence came to me later and told me that kindly do not watch that video. It has error in it. Now, I now decided to go and look at the video to go and confirm what's going on in the video. So the video was called "The Deliverance of the 144,000" by Nadar Mansour. So the presentation of the 144,000 there really pleased my heart, because I couldn't find very many people who understood the 144,000 the way I had read from the pamphlet by Uriah Smith, but his exposition harmonized with my understanding. So I really understood it. Now, in the process of explaining the 144,000, Brother Mansour also mentioned that the belief in the Trinity doctrine is an automatic disqualifier for being in the 144,000. Now remember, my desire is to be in that number. I want to be there since the beginning of my studies. So I told myself, this Trinity matter is coming up again. I think time has come. Let me now study it. let me now get into it and see what it's saying. So what I decided to do, I decided to get other videos, because that is how I used to study. I get other videos of the same person, seeing whether he has spoken about the matter. I type Nader Mansour, Trinity, and a lot of other videos came. So I watched the other videos, and that is how I now began to understand about the one true God message. Things were being exposed, everything is being exposed, and it really now became clear. I understood the fact about Jesus, something that really gave weight to the message for me, was the fact that Jesus is a literal son, and the belief in the Trinity really destroys the sonship of Christ. So it was really painful to me to discover that I am denying that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and that it's so important. I read all the scriptures that say it is eternal life to know that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Things like John chapter 3 verse 34, that those who don't believe, the wrath of God is upon them, and those who believe have eternal life. So that really caught me, and I didn't want to deny Christ's sonship. And I now got to understand that that the 144,000 are so few because the entire denomination believes in the Trinity and is in a church that is having a false doctrine. So automatically, they can't make up the number. And now it kind of made some sense in my mind why that number cannot be made up with such a big group. Together with other factors, that is one of the factors. So I really decided to really change my belief at that particular point. And at that particular point, remember, I'm a leader in the campus church. I'm a leader in the campus church, and I need to now defend the church and be on the side of the church when such things arise. So I was really in a place where I need to decide. But I decided for truth and decided to leave this matter of the Trinity aside and follow what the Bible says. So I followed it. I went back to campus after the Corona holidays. I found a friend. That friend, I spoke with him once. He went back to his place. He called other friends, and in a short time, we now began to have a Bible study at my room in campus. Some 4 friends and myself. So that's how the Bible study began, because I was so eager to share the message. I shared with them the message, and it was so glorious during those studies. They really say that they had never heard something like this. All these verses were making sense, and it was so beautiful to them. And now with all this, I even dug deeper into my Bible studies. I dug deeper into reading SOP books. I especially read The Desire of Ages again, and it came alive. When you read The Desire of Ages with the one true God truth, you understand it in a different sense. That was my experience with reading Desire of Ages. So, as a leader, I had to make a decision. I chose for Christ, and now I didn't really bring the message out in public, but I was just sharing with all those friends who wanted to listen. And as time went by, a year went by. I was still digging deeper and deeper into the studies, and I also got to learn about the objections of the message, and I was very versed with majority of them. I got to interact with some other friends who also understood the message. And I remember the first elder of our campus church, I shared with him once, but he had believed the message earlier, and now he had abandoned the message when he was chosen first elder and became a fierce critic of the message. So it's very interesting that those who are the fiercest critics of the message are the ones who had previously believed and are now away from the message. So he really opposed the message that I was trying to share with friends around, and he really made me see that the church cannot and will not accept this message anytime soon, because he was a barrier, a big barrier for the message to spread in the group at that particular point. So time went by, and I had finished serving as a leader in campus church, and we had the nomination committee. They wanted to choose me again as a leader for personal ministry, but at this particular point, I had really searched myself well, and I had seen that I'm not doing the best I could for God when I'm right here, and I'm not very comfortable here. I can't say my faith openly here. And at that particular point is where I really prayed to God, and I really decided that now I want to really go to my friends, to the people who I have the same faith with. And at that point, I was remembering that story of Moses. When Moses said that it is better to suffer with the children of God than eat the plenty of the house of Pharaoh. So I decided to go and suffer with the children of God because I knew they were being condemned, being called names, and I'm right here enjoying the privileges of leadership. I decided to go and join the sufferings of the children of God outside there. And I was really fixed at the time. So it had taken some 1 year since I accepted the message until the time now I decide to come out fully. And that 1 year was really a time of in-depth study, a time of soul searching, and just wanting to know God's will. It was not easy to make the decision to come out, because we were really teaching when we were back there in the church that this is the true church of God and there is none other. So coming out was one of the toughest things that I had ever had to do in my life. Anyway, I made the decision. Because the elder Elijah Siwane had now finished school, I now decided to call him and tell him that I finally understood what you were saying some 3 years ago, or probably it was around 2 years ago. I understood what you were saying. And he said, thank God, that's great. That's good news. So I thought probably Elijah had now stopped believing in the message or something. Probably he can give me some direction now. And it was good because I came to discover that when he had finished campus, he went out there and still held on to the faith, and even started a small group where he was coming from in Nandi, where they now fellowship as one true God believers. believers in the pioneer Adventism. I was glad to join the group. Brother Elijah, together with his friend, his good friend, Brother Nixon Kiprop, whom you may know, came over to the campus church and now began the small Sabbath school that was beginning in the campus church. The campus church was having now 3 people, myself and other 2, who were people that I had shared the message with. They came there and they began the group, and we had the joy of the Sabbath. Though few, the Sabbaths were so beautiful. We had time to study deep, to go even deep into the history of the church, which was very interesting, studying things like Daniel and the Revelation by Uriah Smith, things that we would have never had while we were in the General Conference Church. So when we came out, feelings were very different. Feelings were very different from how we were still inside the church. We were highly respected because we were leaders in the campus church. But now, people saw us as offshoots, and they were very afraid of mingling with us. And some even lost respect for us, which we thank God for, and we still move on no matter what is happening. But the resolve was very firm to stand for truth. We moved on with a small fellowship there, unwavered until now. We began now to connect with friends from other campuses, because this message of pioneer Adventism and the one true God truth really is really inside the campuses, because the campus students really love this message of Reformation, and that is where I believe it sprang up from. So we connected with friends from universities like the University of Nairobi and JKUAT, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Nairobi still, which was Brother Nixon's university also. So there are members there, so we got to become a fellowship of students who believe this truth. So through that channel, we now began to share with ourselves and share with our friends back in the campus churches, explaining the message to those who do not know. The Lord really led us at that particular moment, because we now found people whose stories were similar to ours. They had separated from those mainstream campus churches and were now fellowshipping separately. It was a consolation to us, and God led us since that particular moment. Now, we have continued, and God has been using us also to share the message from those locals without the campus, those people who are not within the university. And because of the studiousness of the students, they really find a lot of information that may benefit those who are outside. We thank God for the work that He is doing through these young men who have decided to be brave in the strength of God and take this rare message to the world. And all this is happening by the grace of God. Until now, we are still continuing with the work of spreading the message forth. In the environs of Egerton University, we have a place called Molo Church, where we now fellowship. We used to fellowship some time back with the locals there. There's also a place called Mauche just next to Egerton University in Njoro. And at those points, there are now churches that have begun and are moving on well because God led people to go and visit them with the truth. The Lord is still doing mighty work here around, and we believe He will do still great things to us, even though we are young, but we are taking the courage and comfort of Daniel, and that is what is going to take us through. Until right here, right now, all is glory to God as we move on in this journey of faith. I have come to the end of my testimony. Thank you so much for listening, and I wish that the message of Pioneer Adventism may reach every single Seventh-day Adventist that is sincere in the General Conference churches, and may he find courage to make the decision to come and join the children of God who are standing with the old timers who began this powerful and mighty faith of Seventh-day Adventists. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
If you have been blessed by this video, please like, subscribe, and comment below. To support Seventh-day Church of Revelation, visit revelation.org.